FM 94, The Dark. JC hanging out with you here, and yes, it is time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone right now, I'm talking with Matt Brooks, one of the guitarists of the band Like a Storm. And first of all, Matt, I know you guys are originally from New Zealand. Where are you calling from today?
I'm phoning from Detroit, Michigan. We just played here with Alter Bridge on Sunday, and we got a couple of days off.
Okay, so obviously you're not in New Zealand. Do you actually reside in New Zealand today still, or do you now live over in North America?
I think as much as we live anywhere, I'd say that we spend a month or two every year in New Zealand. We go home for our summer, so when it gets to winter up here in the States, we go back and catch up with everyone back home. But otherwise, we basically spend 10 months out of the year touring up here in the States.
Let's talk about the band, and then I do want to talk a little bit about music in New Zealand, too, since I've never had anybody on from New Zealand before, so you're going to be my guinea pig to that. But first of all, let's talk about the band Like a Storm. How did this band all come about?
Well, the band is my two brothers and I, and we actually grew up in New Zealand all playing in different bands. So people have a tendency to think, I guess because we're all brothers, that, we grew up playing in a band together like Hanson or something. But we actually all played in different bands, but we would always jam together at home. And whenever we jammed together, we just found that we had this kind of effortless, natural chemistry. And so we just decided that, it made sense to start playing together, and that's what we've been doing. And we've been up in the States for the last 5 years, playing together in Like a Storm.
Now, obviously, you have your two other brothers. The bands that you had mentioned, you were in three different bands, your brothers, obviously, and yourself. What kind of genre of music were they in? Were they all in the same, or were there different genres of music that all converged into Like a Storm?
They were all rock bands of, various types. Chris, who's our lead singer, and we were both the singers in our own bands. And Kent, our brother who plays bass in Like a Storm, he was the guitarist. So we kind of came together to form one band, and then we sort of reshuffled around, to make the band that we felt was best. So it's been pretty cool, man. It's a real trip playing in a band with your brothers.
How do you guys, I guess, growing up, did you guys get along?
We did. We actually did, I'm the youngest, so I got really lucky that, the other guys didn't pick on me too much. And, we always just had this bond over a love of music. It's kind of weird, I guess, to have three brothers in the same family all be so into the same thing, but we all loved music, and I think that's part of why we have the chemistry together that we do. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, obviously, you said you're the youngest. What is the age group or age difference between you guys?
There's 5 years between the three of us. Okay. So we were all pretty, I guess when we were growing up, we were little kids. Mum had 3 kids under 5, so she had a handful, I think.
Well, the reason I asked that question, because obviously if you had maybe like a brother that was 8, 9 years older, he might have listened to some different music. So basically you guys kind of grew up with the same music, at least listening to in the house. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we did. But, what was really cool for me is that I got into a lot of music earlier than my friends, just because I had older brothers who were into awesome music. So, I was listening to Korn and Deftones and stuff when I was 10. So, and my friends were listening to, less rock and roll stuff like Counting Crows or that kind of thing. So, I think that because I had the influence of my brothers, it got me into heavy music much earlier than I would have otherwise.
We're talking with Matt Brooks, lead guitarist of the band Like a Storm. And you're from New Zealand originally, obviously. What is the music scene like down in New Zealand? I have no idea what it is. What is it like down there?
It's good, man. There are so many talented musicians in New Zealand. The only problem is that New Zealand is such a small place. And, there's less than 5 million people in the whole country. So when you think about a rock band, and the main part of being in a rock band is touring and playing every night. Well, that's just not possible in New Zealand. Not because there aren't rock fans there, but just because there isn't the population there to support touring every night.
Right.
The way there is up here. I mean, we play probably 200 shows a year, every year here in the States, and that just wouldn't be possible in New Zealand.
Well, how do they, treat you or react to you with this band Like a Storm down in New Zealand? I mean, obviously that's where you started this band. So, what's the vibe down there of this band in New Zealand?
They're great, man. I mean, for a while we had this kind of odd reversal where we were actually better known in the US than we were in New Zealand, and that was always kind of a trip because we'd go home, and catch up with our mates that we've grown up with, and you'd always meet new people, and they'd ask about the band, and then you'd say, we've been lucky. We've got to tour with Creed, Alter Bridge, Shinedown. We've had our songs on the radio up here, and for a while in New Zealand, it was like people were like, I can't believe I haven't heard of you guys. But in this last year, particularly, our records have been out in New Zealand, and Love the Way You Hate Me did really well on New Zealand radio, and so this time going home, people are a lot more aware of what we're doing, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. You mentioned Love the Way You Hate Me. And is that the song that really puts you guys on the map here in the United States? Obviously, it hit the charts, I believe a top 30 song. It pretty much opened the door. Is that the song that kind of opened the door for you guys?
It definitely did in terms of anything beyond touring. I mean, we've been really, really lucky. We've played huge shows up here, and we've played a lot of festivals, and we have been able to build a fan base from playing live. But Love the Way You Hate Me really opened the doors for us in terms of, having a song on the radio, and people who hadn't had the chance to come and see us play now know who we are. And the craziest thing of all, really, is that the video for Love the Way You Hate Me just hit 1 million views, which is kind of mind-blowing for us.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. And I was doing a little research, and I don't know if this is true or not, because you never know what you see on the internet and that, but according to what I was reading, Like a Storm was the highest charted New Zealand hard rock act ever. Am I true on that? Is that correct?
Yeah, that is crazy, and that's true. That was thanks to Love the Way You Hate Me. I think it got to 22 or 21 on the charts up here in the States, and that made us the highest charting hard rock band from New Zealand in the US ever. And actually, with the release of Wish You Hell, which is the single that we've just put out, we now also have the most rock single released in the States of any New Zealand band. So it's, we don't do anything to try and break these records, but it's pretty crazy to come from New Zealand and be playing up here, and then over the course of your career, you start to get these milestones.
Absolutely. We're talking with Matt Brooks. He's the lead guitarist with a band that he's with his brothers called Like a Storm. And I guess the question I got to ask you is the name Like a Storm. Who came up with it, and why did you guys come up with it?
My brothers came up with it, actually.
Okay.
And it was a line from one of our earlier songs. And we were trying to come up with a name that really summed up the kind of band we wanted to be. But the other part of coming up with a band name, the hardest part of all, is to come up with a name that hasn't been taken already.
That's true.
You'd be amazed at the number of names you think you've come up with that you think are original, and then you just type them into the internet and you find, 20 bands with the same name. And Like a Storm really fit with the kind of music that we wanted to make, and it also was unique in the world, so it kind of fits well.
Cool. What's it like actually growing up in New Zealand and then living here mostly now in the United States? What are some of the differences that you've noticed, not even on the musical side, but maybe just culture-wise?
It's been pretty fascinating, man. It really has. The U.S. is obviously much, much bigger, and with that, it's just much more diverse. So in all the touring that we've done, we've played in every state. We've been coast to coast. We've got to meet and interact and become friends with people from all walks of life up here. And I think probably what strikes me the most is just the diversity in this country, the range of different people and the range of different ideas that people have. And New Zealand is a beautiful place, and it was an amazing place to grow up. But it's much smaller, so when we came to the States, I think we were really blown away by just the range of different things that you could find up here.
You mentioned range, and, I haven't listened to a lot of your stuff, but some of the stuff I've heard, you're using a lot of different instruments in your music, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. We are. In Love the Way You Hate Me, Chris, my brother, plays didgeridoo, and that was something that he learned after a vacation to Australia, and it was just like the most amazing sound. And so we started working that into our music more and more, and now the didgeridoo has become, something that we're known for.
Yeah.
And with Wish You Hell, which is our latest single, we experimented a lot with kind of traditional blues instruments. So we played jaw harp, slide guitar, mandolin. We're just big music fans, and so we always are looking for ways to incorporate interesting instruments into heavy music.
What I think is really cool is that obviously using the instruments you did in Like a Storm, you had a lot of instrumental in there, and a lot of times that gets chopped up in the radio edits and stuff, but they left it in there because that's a huge part of the song, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny because as a musician, you kind of feel like you slipped one past the goalie when you get that much music on the radio. I think with every song that we put out, I always expect in the back of my head that we're going to have to do these really, really, tight radio arrangements.
Right.
And with Love the Way You Hate Me, we got that big, long didgeridoo and drum solo, which we never thought in a million years would be played on radio. And with Wish You Hell, we got not one but two guitar solos. There's a slide guitar solo that Chris plays, which is in like a Delta blues style, and then there's a heavy rock solo which I play. And we just never thought that we would get a song on radio that had two solos. So I think we feel very, very lucky to have that much music, being played out there.
We're talking to Matt Brooks, lead guitarist of the band Like a Storm. Hey, you've been talking about the radio a bunch. What does it mean for you, actually, and your brothers to hear your music, your songs, on the radio?
It's absolutely mind-blowing, man. I think it's surreal to hear your music on the radio anyway. But for us, coming from New Zealand, coming from literally the other side of the world, to being up here in the States and hearing, the songs that we created being blasted out to, American rock fans, it's unbelievable. We've been lucky to catch it being played quite a few times, and you kind of never really get used to it.
How about a couple of questions here I'm curious about, music-wise in your collection? What's in your music collection that you might listen to that might actually shock me?
Well, it depends on how prepared you are. But, we listen to a ton of stuff. I mean, for me, on a regular day, I listen to a lot of blues.
Okay.
Joe Bonamassa, who's a blues guitarist,
Yep.
I listen to his stuff probably for an hour every day, no exaggeration.
Okay.
I also listen to a lot of really heavy music, like Norwegian black metal. And also we listen to a lot of other stuff, hip-hop, pop music. I mean, I think one of the things that we really love about music is that there's good stuff in every style. There's good music in every genre. And one of the things that we really love about writing music is that you get to incorporate different elements that you like from different genres into the style of your band. So part of what we love about Like a Storm is that we've been able to incorporate these instruments from completely different genres and still have it be under, the hard rock umbrella.
You mentioned writing. Where does your influence, I guess, from some of these songs come from? Obviously, most artists say it's from actually their everyday life. For three brothers together, is it pretty much the same thing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, all three of us write songs, which is kind of unusual, and that was one of the things that came from the three of us all being sort of the driving force behind our own bands and then forming a group together. But so we all write songs, and all the songs are inspired by, things that have happened to us or emotions that you feel at the time. I mean, Love the Way You Hate Me was directly inspired by someone in a small town truck stop calling my brother Kent a freak because he has, dyed black and red spiky hair, and I guess, they don't get too many people who look like us going through that truck stop. And that inspired the idea of a song about being yourself. And Wish You Hell was very much inspired by, it's sort of a good riddance to the people who've screwed you over. And I think, with music, you can really build on those emotions and build a song that captures the vibe, So a lot of our music has a really defiant message.
Very cool, very cool. We're talking with Matt Brooks of Like a Storm. Hey, what current band right now in active rock are you guys really digging?
I personally, I really dig Nothing More. I think those guys are awesome, and we actually played Dirtfest together a couple of months ago, and it was really nice. I met Johnny, the singer, and we talked for a little bit. But there's a lot of great music, and I think that's part of the reason why we just feel so honored to be part of it. To be on the radio next to the other bands and hard rock music is pretty amazing.
Hey, here's a question that might make you think a little bit, but what artist would you like to cover one of your songs?
You know what? We covered Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise, and I'd like for Coolio to cover one of ours.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, you did. You think we can make that happen?
I don't know. I think he's gotten into writing cookbooks. So I guess maybe if he gets back into music and, decides that he wants to dabble in hard rock, then we could make something happen.
You mentioned Coolio and you did his song. Did you ever get any comments from him, or did he actually talk to you personally about that or not?
Well, we haven't heard from him yet. But,
okay.
One of the great things about music and I guess the internet now is that things just kind of go viral and spread out,
right?
Into the ether. So I'd like to think, maybe one day he'll stumble across it, and other people seem to dig our version of it. So I hope that we did it justice.
Hopefully one day maybe he'll do "Love the Way You Hate Me."
Exactly, but he's got to learn to play the didgeridoo.
Yeah, I don't know. He's an artist, so he can possibly do it. You never know. Hey, you've been out with so many bands, obviously, as of late. If you had to put together your ultimate 3-band bill to play with, who would those other 2 bands be?
Oh, man. I would have to say I would definitely pick Alter Bridge to be one of them.
Okay.
We're out with them right now, but that's not why I'm saying it. They're an incredible band and a great bunch of dudes. So I would include them. And for the other one, I don't know. That's hard. I always say that there are these bands that I would love to tour with, like Tool, for example, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Right.
I'd love to tour with Tool, but I wouldn't want to be the band going on before them.
I gotcha. Hey, how about this question? I'll ask you the same question, but maybe bands that are no longer together or existence, or maybe even bands that are no longer alive. Or artists? Is there anybody that would have been a cool thing if I would have been able to play on stage with those guys? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I guess tragically, a lot of those grunge bands that we grew up listening to are no longer together. I think, playing with Nirvana, playing with Alice in Chains when Lane was still alive.
Right.
There are those bands that were a big influence on us growing up that unfortunately, are no longer together. So I think that would be a couple that really spring to mind.
You've obviously said you've been in the States here a bunch. You've toured in every state. Have you ever? So you must have toured in Minnesota before then.
We have. Yeah, we came to Minnesota in the middle of winter.
How was that for you? How was that for you?
What's that, bud?
How was that for you? Was it good? Nice and cold?
Minnesota was awesome. You know, I mean, the snow took a little getting used to, but we've played Minnesota a few times. Just recently, actually, we were through with the guys in Theory of a Deadman, and the crowds have always been awesome. So, you know, we were really stoked to come up and play there, and that's one of the coolest things about touring is that you get to go to all these different places and meet people who love the same music that you do.
I know you're coming up here in about a month or so, and you're playing with Drowning Pool. I know that. I saw that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Yep, that'll be cool. So, and I don't think it'll be cold enough yet, but have you ever done any ice fishing before?
You know, I haven't done ice fishing, and I've got a few friends from up here who are always trying to convince us to go out on the ice and sit in the ice shack and try. You know, I mean, it sounds amazing because we did a lot of fishing growing up in New Zealand.
Well, yeah.
I've never done any fishing on the ice.
I was going to say, you grew up in an island out in the middle of, you know, basically the ocean, and here now you're going to walk on water. That's got to kind of be a feeling of interesting, a little different feeling, wouldn't you say?
You know, I think the strangest thing to me is just that you're sitting, you know, that you sit above a hole and fish are swimming underneath you. You know, in New Zealand, I mean, my brothers and I had a tradition with our dad before we moved up here, and every year we would go big game fishing. So, you know, fishing for marlin and shark, and big fish. And that would be going way off the coast, way out of the side of land to catch these big fish. So the idea of just sitting above them and then you wait for them to swim underneath, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, when you pull up about a 2-inch perch and you go, that's no shark. Oh, hey, last thing for you here. Obviously, you guys are a big tour. You know, you're all over the place right now. What's coming up for you guys for album-wise? Now that you've got, it seems like more legs underneath you, people know about you now. What's the future hold for you?
Well, I mean, it's pretty exciting, man. We have our new record, Awaken the Fire, coming out at the start of next year. That's going to have our new single, Wish You Hell, on it. And we're actually just mixing the last couple of songs for that album now. So we've had this insane combination of touring and recording and mixing literally at the same time. So we'll come back from the shows and then mix the songs and record the songs at night. So it's going to be pretty exciting to have that music out there. And we're touring right up until the end of the year, and we'll be touring when we come back in January. So, you know, the next little while is pretty exciting.
And obviously, Matt, for people that don't know much about you and want to get more information about Like a Storm, how can they do that?
Well, you can find us on Facebook. We're Like a Storm on Facebook, at Real Like a Storm on Twitter. You can go to our website, likeastorm.com, and we're on Instagram as well.
Awesome, awesome. A lot of fun talking to you, Matt, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in concert sometime here in Minnesota, okay?
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All righty, and we're going to play your new song here coming up in just a moment, and thanks again for joining me.
Thanks, mate.
Once again, that is Matt Brooks. He's the